I have 7 days to rebuild the cheapest BMW E36, which has been a former rally car. Kind of.
The Pothole Rodeo. 12 countries, 4,500 kilometers in 12 days, where you and your cheap car have to overcome the worst roads of Europe. And this is Joey, a 30-year-old grumpy grandpa who has been through the Pothole Rodeo 4 times in a row. But I guess Joey had a great time, because he got driven by a dad and his daughter while making beautiful memories together.
And now it's my turn to completely transform this rare colored BMW E36 into a beauty again, on my own, in 7 days.
Fixing a car I've never worked on before and not even knowing whether it can be brought back on the road. How naive am I? Well, this car is in bad shape. And what's even worse, Joey stood around for almost 2 years and needs an inspection to go back on the road.
So my only 2 questions are, how bad is it? And can we rebuild it in 7 days? Take a look at the interior, it looks pretty good. It actually came with replacement panels. The sunroof, it works, which is amazing for a 30-year-old car. It has all of the tools in here, no way. Now we're gonna take a look under the hood. Here it is, the mighty 4-cylinder. It's an M43 B16 with 102 horsepower. To be honest, this alone is scary. I mean, it's a 30-year-old car,
which is known for rusty checking points.
So we are going to take a look at this car together. I haven't seen it before. Exhaust looks fine. Well, here we have an oil leak. We have our subframe mounts here, and these bushings look bad. All 4 bushings definitely need replacing. The exhaust bushing also needs replacing because it's done. Control arm bushings also, just to make sure that they are also okay. So here's a little hole, we have to do that. We have some oil leak here. We have an oil leak here in the front. The rubber piece from the bolt joint is slid up. This one also on that side is also done. I think we also need fuel lines. Wow, this looks pretty bad. And I also think we need an engine ground strap. Ooh. Ouch. Guys. This should do it. Oh god. This is bad. The seller didn't mention that. It has more rust than I initially thought, but other than that, I feel like that this car is pretty solid. That should be everything we need to fix this car.
It's like Christmas. A whole lot of boxes full with car parts.
It's Tuesday, 12 o'clock, and you're gonna watch all of this in this video. And my goal at first is to remove all of the stickers from the car. I have stolen the hairdryer from the bathroom. Hopefully I won't make it dirty, otherwise I get in trouble with my girlfriend.
So basically we are heating up all of the stickers.
First sticker off. Nice.
And heating them up makes them easier to remove.
All of the stickers from one door removed.
This is gonna look awesome. But we still have a lot of stickers to remove. And I really need to be careful not to damage the clear coat. And paint on any older car is very fragile. And although it takes longer than I thought, we are making some good progress.
One side is finished. Yeah, of course we have some glue leftovers on there, but all of the stickers are now away from this side here. It is now 4 p.m. and I finally finished with removing all of the stickers. The leftover glue, which is on there, we're gonna have to remove on the last day because it is almost dark. We have half an hour of daylight left. So let's put the car into the garage.
and it kinda screams, I don't wanna go in the garage. And the first step, of course, is we are loosening all of the wheel bolts. And right after that, the car gets lifted in the air. Little Joey learns to fly.
Next up, we're going to remove the bumpers in the front and also in the back. But first we need to remove the wheels, I think. Wow, this wheel is light. I like it when they go off easily.
And right after removing the wheels, I wanted to remove the rear arch lining.
This is the first bolt.
And I thought that it snapped. But
The bolt or the nut actually didn't break. It's the panel behind it. This is starting great. Yet now there's a hole in there.
great, I don't think Joey likes to get disassembled. Nevertheless, we got it done, and now we are doing the same on the other side.
Next up, we're going to remove all of the screws holding in the bumper.
There are a total of 4 screws holding in the bumper, and once they are removed, we can take off the bumper.
Removed. Now comes the front bumper.
And it is attached just like the rear bumper. I've already removed the arch liners. All that's left to do is to remove the 4 bolts in the front.
So much easier than any other car. These cars look so funny when they have no bumper at all on them. I'm already way behind. Actually, I wanted to grind down all of the paint here. It is now 8 p.m. and we still have to do a lot of things.
So let's try to catch up on some time. The pre-owner did some worst repairs in the back here, but didn't want to paint it properly, so therefore we have to do that.
I'm pretty tired now. So I think I'm going to remove some parts we have to install then anyways. Please be solid.
That's the attachment point from the fender on the bottom, and it looks really rusty.
Okay. Oh my god. Thank you.
On this side, fortunately, we could remove everything without breaking, but on the other side, we weren't as lucky. That's so bad. Underneath the arch lining, some rust. Played hide and seek.
Here's another hole. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't thought this car is gonna be so bad. I kind of think that I made a mistake with buying this car. It's now the next day. It's 8 o'clock, no, 9 o'clock. We have seen yesterday so many issues with this car. And I'm starting to really doubt that we can fix this thing in 7 days.
But for now, we need to focus on removing the fenders. But unscrewing these bolts was a challenge, because they also were rusted. And one of them even stripped. I had no chance against it. So let's try to remove the bolts on the top, and hopefully we won't strip them. But of course, we had to strip 2 of them. But fortunately we could remove all of them, and then it was all just a matter of removing 2 bolts that hold in the hood and the fender together.
Ouch. Why did BMW make this so bad?
Yep, not being able to remove the fenders without removing the bolts that hold in the hood is just dumb. Next up, we are removing the cooling duct. Therefore we need to unscrew a few bolts and also a few clips. Then we can take it out like that. Now the headlights have to go. They are held in by 4 bolts each.
Good.
Next up we are removing all of the bolts holding in the kidney grill holder. And then the nose comes just right out. Remember that I stripped the bolt? Well, we need to remove that now, so that we can remove the fender.
Yay!
So let's remove the bolts on top.
So now it's about 4 p.m. and we're going to lift the car up in the air, and I'm going to take a look at all of the holes, and we're going to grind them down so that we can see the full extension to all of these damages.
I really hope that these damages won't get bigger and that we won't find any other surprises underneath the sealant. But of course we had to find another rust spot.
This car is a mess. So much rust on there. I hate it. Okay, we're now going to start with marking all of the sections that need to get cut out.
Basically, we are cutting into good metal so that we can weld onto that. On rust, it is simply not possible to weld. So therefore, the rust has to go.
Hello!
Now we're removing the underbody sealant to make sure that there isn't any more rust hiding underneath there.
Finally, a little bit of good news. The panel isn't rusted till here.
It still looks bad and needs attention.
Guys, how the hell should I get this car on the road again? I'm no expert. The rust here in the front is just way too much. I just can't do it anymore. I just can't search for another holes in the front. So therefore I need to do something else. I'm going to remove the rear suspension fully and replace a few bushings in the back. But don't worry, no matter how long it takes, it's gonna get done in this video.
Okay, let's just focus on the exhaust right now. In order to remove the exhaust, we need to take off 6 bolts and an exhaust hanger, and then we can take it off. Okay. Next up, we are unbolting the heat shield and just simply put it out of the way. Then we are loosening the 4 main bolts for the rear subframe. And also the bolts for the trailing arms, 3 on each side. And in order to make it easier to align later, we are marking the position of the trailing arms. Now let's loose the bolts for the rear dampers and the nuts connecting the prop shaft to the differential.
It's now day 3.
So let's make unfinished business. We are loosening all of the differential bolts so that we can shift the differential a little bit back and get out all of the studs from the prop shaft so that we can remove the whole subframe without removing the whole prop shaft. Before we can even think about removing the whole subframe, we need to remove the nuts holding in the handbrake cables so that we can pull them out. And also we need to disconnect the brake lines.
Are we going to round it off? No, we won't!
If you liked this video so far, make sure to stick till the end, because I'm going to reveal how much this build costs.
Yes, 2 for 2!
Disconnecting the rear dampers from the knuckles. And now we need to disconnect the ABS sensors and also the speed sensor from the differential. Pulling out the handbrake cables.
Next step, we are going to remove the rear suspension from the car.
We now just have to loosen the bolts all the way.
Everything loosened.
And now the subframe can go out. And done.
The rear suspension is finally out. We did one thing at least.
Now we're gonna turn our attention to the front corner, which has huge gaping rust holes. We are going to cut out the whole corner here.
We have now cut out almost all of the rust. And I think I want to do something else, so we are going to fix the front suspension now. As you can see here, this boot is slid up. And also this boot here. So we need new control arms. Let's use the official BMW tool. Here you can see the official BMW tool.
So let's see if this BMW tool is up to the test. And after loosening the outer ball joint, we are unbolting the sway bar from the control arm. And also from the body of the car, so we can take out the whole stabilizer bar.
Now we should have enough space to go in here. Not really.
Well, I just guess we have to use the BMW tool once more.
Okay, this is removed.
All that's left to do is to remove these two bolts from the rear of the control arm, and then hopefully we can remove the whole control arm. Let's hope it isn't seized.
Okay.
I'm so happy that we didn't have to beat on it a couple of hours.
Yay! Now I just have to get it loose. Somehow.
Basically the nut was still on the ball joint and I couldn't get it off because it was just spinning the ball joint. So we had to cut it.
Okay.
And of course we couldn't get out the little stud.
I have a bad idea.
Yep, welding on the nut and then hopefully we can remove it.
Yay! Bye bye.
Copy and paste on the other side. And now we're turning our attention to rebuilding this corner here. I'm using a piece of paper to create a template which will later transfer onto metal.
Playing with paper is way harder than with metal.
But I think I have roughly captured the proper shape. And later we will cut out some panels out of these templates. Let's continue with the rear subframe. We need to remove the differential, therefore we need to undo all of the bolts from the drive shaft to the differential output shaft. Done. And now we can unbolt the differential. One bolt in the front and two in the back. And out it goes.
My next step is to remove the subframe mount bushings from the rear suspension and also the rear trailing arm bushings.
But therefore we need to create ourselves a tool. Here I'm cutting a rod to the right length and now we can insert it into the bushing. And with the help of a few wheel bearing tools we can press it out. A few lovely taps.
Ta-da! With homemade tools, and you don't even need to buy an expensive tool.
Except of the wheel bearing tools. But I guess you could also do it with some washers. But the tool stopped working here because of the threaded rod.
This is my last option.
Yeah, the threaded rod was simply too weak.
Well, this is probably not the best idea to do it on a cardboard, right?
I mean, cardboard can't possibly burn, right? Back to the repair. We're using a hammer to get this bushing out.
Ah, finally.
We are now on day 4 and we need to get started because it's almost 10 o'clock. And today's actually a holiday, so we need to be a little bit quieter. Because people don't want to get disturbed on their free days.
I mean, I'm at least quieter than usually. Let's remove the rear trailing arm bushing. Therefore, we need to remove this bracket here by undoing this bolt.
Yep, this bushing is definitely broken.
Let's do the same thing on the other side too, to expose the bushing.
These bushings are so done. I have a game plan. We're gonna heat up everything here in the middle, take out this metal sleeve and then try to press this bushing out.
in the middle of that, I've changed my plans and just heated the hell out of it. And now we're using a hammer to remove it.
Good.
And now we are doing the same thing on the other side too.
Next up, I want to fabricate the first panel here. We need to recreate this here. So we have our templates here,
which I have to separate. And now we can put it on metal, trace it and cut it out.
Good. Let's go to the car.
Of course, it didn't fit the first time properly, so we had to modify it a bit.
Better, definitely.
And we are also taking the measurements from the other side to make sure that all of our measurements are correct.
This is for real a part from a train track.
So let's mark the panel where it needs bending. That sound was funny. So let's bend the metal. And now we are marking the other section that needs bending.
So we now have one part fabricated in the front, and I think the other one is a little bit more difficult, so I'm going to do that later. Yeah, next up I want to get the differential fixed because it is leaking oil. Actually, only the left seal is broken, but I'm going to replace them both. So at first we need to get out this flange here. Yeah. Perfect. Number one. Next up, I'm going to measure how deep this output shaft seal sits.
And I'm also marking it just to be safe.
Like here. This is fine. I'll pry it out.
This is so much harder than I thought. But with the hammer, I got it out.
Yes.
And now we are removing all of the rust from the surface just to make sure that the output shaft seal doesn't get damaged when putting it in. And right after that we are also cleaning the surface.
Okay. So it's exactly the same part. We're gonna use some dry lube. Place it in here.
And after putting in the new output shaft seal, we are putting the old one on top and hammer it in. Just make sure that it goes in evenly.
Now it sits perfectly. Now we're gonna put this in. Okay. Just clean it a bit. And we're gonna use some oil.
Line it up and smack it with a hammer.
Perfect. One side done.
And I've already did the other side, and we just have to clean off all of the oil from the differential. Next up, we are going to rebuild the front suspension.
I have an idea.
Well, I need the bushing housing from these control arms.
This here is a lollipop. And we need to press out this inner ring here. And therefore we need a hammer.
And again, some wheel bearing tools. Smack it. I know, there are very primitive tools, but they work so good.
We have day 4, and the only thing we have done so far to 100% is the differential. Nothing else. I kinda hate myself for that because, you know, I wanted to weld up the car for 3 days now, but I haven't done it because I fear making a mistake or, I don't know, setting the car on fire. We're just doing everything at once. We don't finish a thing. We just start it and yeah, let it be like that and figure it out later. We need to finish this thing here. Therefore, we have some new bushings from Lamferder. They were so cheap and I'm so happy because they are good quality. Now we're gonna install the new bushing, but before we can do that, I want to clean up all of the rust in the lollipop in here. Looks good.
Cleaning out all of the dirt.
We now have a little mark here, and we also have a little arrow here on the bushing. So this arrow needs to point to the mark.
Let's put in the lollipop and the bushing in the pressing tool.
I'm just spraying on a bit of dry lube. Good. So that the bushing goes in more nicely.
And now we're pressing the bushing into the lollipop.
Yeah, this is perfect.
Good. One part from the front suspension finished. Now we need to prepare the front control arms.
Ooh, this looks so shiny, it's nice. Now we need to figure out at what direction, or what angle we're going to install it. But I think we are going with nice and straight. I have some soap here. I'm gonna put it on. Because soap, you can wash it away and then the lollipop sits nice on there, nice and tight. Next one.
And again, some soap.
We call it spüli here. Just press it on. A 22mm socket. Okay. I'm currently watching Sweatin from M539 restorations while restoring or rebuilding my E36.
And while watching these videos, I'm going to press in the rear subframe mount bushings.
But at first I'm gonna clean off this in here, all of the bushing seatings. Dishwashing, I don't know, let's just call it soap. Now we're gonna use some tools for wheel bearings, but it works just fine here. Loop this here up just a bit, and I'm using soap just because you can remove it with water, because you don't want the bushings to slip in there. Good. Looks good.
And now we're going to do the same exact thing on the other ones too. First cleaning, then soaping, and then we're going to press in the bushing.
Oh, great. Now we need to remove all of the leftovers from the old bushing in here. The problem with the old bushing is it just disintegrated and left little pieces in here. So we need to remove that.
And here is the new bushing. Hopefully it fits. And now we're going to use the pressing tool to press in the new bushing, which luckily fits. And here we are pressing the other bushing in too.
Done.
And now we have fully replaced all of the bushings that needed replacing in the back.
Okay, let's remove the valve cover.
Because I want to replace the gasket. So let's remove all of the 10 bolts. And out it comes.
Looks good.
Now we need to remove the old seal.
Microfiber towel and some brake cleaner. Good.
We need to remove all of the bolts so that we then can remove all of the grommets that are on the bolts, because they are also sealing, and therefore we are going to replace them too.
I'm gonna give every screw a new grommet.
New valve cover seal.
And we need to be careful so that the seal sits perfectly and is not twisted or anything. Good. This is now prepared.
Now we're gonna prepare the engine.
Just a bit RTV onto here. Just a bit RTV onto here. And on the half moons in the back. Now we're gonna let that sit for a bit.
And in the meantime, I'm trying to figure out why the car loses coolant.
I think it is the coolant line down there, and I think it's just a bit loose because the pre-owner already did the flanges. They are all new, but I think this clamp loosened up. I think I can go from here.
I just want to try to tighten the clamp that holds the coolant hose on the flange.
This was a bit loose.
Hopefully this fixed the leak.
Let's put on the valve cover. Newton-meters.
And here we are talking everything from the inside to the outside.
Now let's use a little bit of dry lube. Wow, these engine mounts are really done. This engine does not sit in there anymore. But, job done. It's almost 10 p.m. So that was it for today. And tomorrow I have actually some help, which I'm so happy about because it's not looking good right now. But no matter what happens in these 7 days, you're gonna watch this car transformed by the end of this video. It's now day 5 and we cannot let it slide again. We have to fix all of the panels that need welding today. Because otherwise we can't even paint this car in time. But before we do any of that, we need to clean the garage first, because there are trip hazards, there's stuff everywhere on the floor. Yeah, I don't like tripping over things. I'm basically sweeping off the car from the ground.
And the goal for the day is to create replacement panels for all of the rust spots. Therefore I'm using the old panel, make it straight and then trace it on a new metal, cut it out. And then try to fit it. It needs some further modification and bending, but then it fits nicely. First panel done. Luckily a friend of mine had some spare time on his hands, so therefore he grinded away all of the paint on the arches and also on the sills. Because later this day I want to prime everything and prepare it for further treatment. And whilst he's doing that, I'm continuing with creating some replacement panels. This section here has a special shape, so therefore I needed to be creative. But I had the idea to use a socket and bricks, which worked fine. And after a couple of hours we finished all of the replacement panels, and right after that it was time to create the holes for the spot welds. So therefore I've used some paint, put the panel in the right position, and then we knew where to drill. Right after we are preparing the surface for welding, so therefore we have to remove all of the paint and the rust, because you can't weld on rust or paint. We are also removing the protective layer of the metal, and then we're going to put on some zinc, which is weldable. Here you can see what my friend is doing. He's doing such a great job removing all of the old stone chip protection on the sills. And because I needed to wait till the zinc was dry, I decided to remove the rear dampers. So therefore I needed to remove all of the trims in the trunk, and then we can loosen 2 bolts and the damper comes right out. Back to the rust repair. The zinc is now dry and we can weld up the panels to the car. I just wanted to tack weld the panels for now, and later I'm going to weld them fully. And in order to weld the panel with the weird shape, I needed to remove the battery. Otherwise, I think I would get too much heat into the battery. The same goes for the washer fluid reservoir. Now we're going to tack weld the first panel in the corner. And with some further modifications, I really think we can make this look like OEM. Can you remember? A little bit earlier I've said I wanted to prime all of the spots that my friend just grinded down. But before we can do that, we of course needed to mask everything that doesn't need paint. Here I'm just grinding down the leftovers. And we are also grinding down the welds from the pre-owner.
The car is almost finished for the primer, which is actually a rust converter.
We just have to clean all of the surfaces. Now it is time. We're going to prime the car with something I have never done before. I have never used a spray gun before. But I'm gonna be honest, it was so cool. I just want to do it again. And it looked great. No runs in the paint. I know spraying the primer isn't the hardest task, but for the first time, it is great.
We now have day 6 and yesterday we got a little bit done.
And the first task of the day is to put on some body filler. We are using a fiberglass body filler, which is more flexible and stronger.
And while we're waiting till the Bondo dries up, we're gonna change the coolant cap. I suspect that this is the reason why the car has too much pressure in the system and therefore it loses coolant in the back. I have here another one from an E36 and this is actually the same one.
So let's put it on.
Also we have another ground cable for the engine because the one on the car currently doesn't look too good anymore. Ow.
And after breaking my hand, we can fully remove the ground cable from the bottom.
This is completely done.
And in goes the new one.
This is from an E46, it looks a little bit different, but it works just fine on here. Good. The old one looks like this and is completely done. Next up we're gonna fix the rear dampers. The bump stop moves up and down and I don't think it should be like that. So I have some new ones here.
So let's remove the top mount from the damper, and right after that we can take off the bump stop. Assembling the new bump stop, and on it goes. Installing the top mount again and tightening the nut. One is done and now we do the other one. Done. Now we're going to reinstall the differential again. And now the whole subframe goes back into the car. We just have to screw in the 2 bolts in the back and 2 nuts in the front. Then we can lift up the car together with the subframe. After sliding in the studs from the prop shaft again, we can fully tighten the differential. And also put back the springs. Back to the bodywork. Now it's time to sand off all of the Bondo that we previously put on. But we had a huge issue.
The Bondo won't stick to the car in a few spots.
Which never happened before.
This is not good. Oh no. It was all for nothing.
This means the last couple of hours were for nothing. Just with a little bit of force, I could pull off all of the Bondo.
Wow. This is gonna take me, I don't know how many hours to fix, and to be honest, I never had this problem. The Bondo always sticks to the paint so good, but I have a theory. This paint normally needs about 1 day to dry. I just left it overnight because I don't have the time for that. And now we need to remove all of the Bondo again. I think I'm also gonna remove the primer.
Yeah, we have to do it. I don't see any other options. I've never had this problem before. And this happening now could mean the end of this challenge. Nevertheless, I'm determined to get Joey on the road again, and that in a better shape than he was before. And I don't care how long it takes and what I have to do for it, I'm gonna do it.
So we have grinded down all of the panels that needs grinding down.
And this time I am simply using zinc as a primer, which is dry in about 10 minutes. But just to be sure, I'm gonna let it dry for a couple of hours. And in the meantime, I'm gonna take care of the front suspension. So here we are installing the front control arm. And since I can't get a torque wrench in there, we are going with good and tight. Now we're gonna take care of the other side too. Good and tight here. Unfortunately, on the inner ball joints I could get a torque wrench on. Unfortunately, I couldn't torque the ball joint because it just simply turned inside. So I need to get the car on the ground to torque the inner ball joints with 90 Newton meters. Well, let's torque the lollipops with 47 Newton meters. Good, and now it's time for bodywork again. Just as before, we are using some fiberglass filler and just put it on. And while we're waiting till the Bondo dries, we are going to take care of the front brakes. Here we are loosening the two bolts for the caliper. Then remove the little clip and compress the caliper so that it can come off. Removing the brake pads. Let's remove the caliper bracket. Therefore we just need to remove these two screws. And after removing the bolt that holds in the rotor, also the rotor can come out. Let's do the exact same thing on the other side too. Removing the bolts for the caliper, then remove the caliper and the brake pads. After that the caliper holder, and then the rotor. Guess what time it is? Yep, it's bodywork time. We are just sanding off all of the Bondo to make a nice and even surface.
Okay guys, it's 7 PM. We have day 6 and I still have not even painted the car. I don't know guys, it just went so much wrong in this video till yet. I didn't believe that it will take so long for each and every step, and I'm honest, I probably could have done better. Nevertheless, we still achieved a lot in 7 days, or 6 days now, I guess. But don't worry, you're gonna see it all in this video.
Enough complaining, we need to continue. But there was an issue, a pretty big one actually.
I have just seen another thing, which might mean that we lost another day. Can you see that? It's separating again. Oh, please not. Yet again. Car. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing now. Screwdriver is also broken now. Great. I mean, what the hell? Now it's a couple of days later, and yeah, it's pretty cold now. It is frustrating, but we have at least some news. On this side here, it's sticking up pretty good. You can't see that it is detaching from the body anywhere. And on the other side, it's actually the same story. Here, it sticks pretty good. Here also, the only issue we have is here till about here. You just have to redo it from here till here. And I think this should be fine then.
Which is still frustrating because I have spent multiple days trying to get this right. And I have to do it again.
Now I'm going to wait till all of the dust settles. And then we're going to put on some primer again. And then hopefully we can Bondo this panel. But this time I'm letting it sit for, I don't know, a couple of hours.
So let's continue with the front brakes. Here we are cleaning all of the surfaces where the brake pads sit. On goes the new brake rotor, and it looks so cool. The brake rotor bolt gets 8 Newton meters, and then we are cleaning all of the oil from the factory of the brake rotor. On goes the caliper bracket, then torquing these bolts with 110 Newton meters. Installing the new brake pads, and on goes the caliper. These bolts get 35 Newton meters, and now the clip, and done. Now the other side, done. Time for some bodywork. At first we're cleaning all of the surfaces, and then we're putting on some zinc. And while the zinc dries, we are going to fix the rear brakes. So let's try to get off the drum brake. Therefore we have to adjust the handbrake just a little bit back, and then we can take off the drum.
Oh, finally.
And since the whole assembly just wiggles a little bit around, I'm going to bolt up the control arm. Now we have to remove the springs holding the brake shoes together. And right after that we are removing the 2 hooks that hold the brake shoes to the assembly. Remove the brake shoes. For this brake shoe we have to unhook the handbrake cable.
I'm with you. Thank you. I'm gonna put this one on first because of the handbrake cable.
On goes the other brake shoe. Now on go the hooks that hold the brake shoes. Installing the springs, which was way harder than it looks. And if you're doing something like this yourself, please make sure that you wear all of the safety gear, especially some glasses. And here we are testing the handbrake, which is working fine.
Okay, good.
And on goes the drum. The bolt gets 8 Newton meters and we are done.
The primer should be dry enough, and this is the last time I'm trying to do this. Otherwise, I have another idea. But this idea would take about 1 month.
But that's not really an option, because I don't know if I can improve it by doing it this way or not. So let's put on some Bondo and try it one last time. And whilst we're waiting for the Bondo to dry, we are fully welding the tack welded panels. And in order to not warp any metal, I'm using the compressor to cool down the panels. It's time again. We are sanding down all of the Bondo. Yet again, we are trying to make a smooth surface. Hopefully this time it works. But I think it did. I'm also applying a second layer of Bondo and then remove all of the covers from the car. And after letting the second layer dry, we are also putting a third layer on, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm so happy that it worked this time. Not a single area where the Bondo is detaching. Well, we lost the 7-day challenge. And yeah, it hurts. But you know what? That's not the end. I'm not giving up. This car deserves to pass inspection and shine again, no matter what it takes. And after sanding, my dad is helping me getting out all of the dust out of the garage. As soon as the dust settles and we've cleaned the panels, we are putting on some sprayable filler.
So, it's now a few days later, and in the last couple of days I've been trying to make the Bondo look nice, and I think I have achieved that. But the only problem was the Bondo didn't dry pretty well, because it is pretty cold here in Austria right now. So I have basically made one patch and then let it dry for about 1 day. Guys, this car is gonna be finished soon, especially if I'm able to finish the paint today. Finish this welding patch here, which I haven't done before because the problem was if I turn on any tools that are rotating, all of the dust from the ground just gets blown up in the air and then landing on the Bondo or on the ground, on the primer, sorry.
Here we are sanding the filler just to get out any imperfections.
Next up, we are going to clean the panels.
And then we are applying another layer of sprayable filler. And now it is time for some paint. Finally, 3 layers of base coat and 2 layers of clear coat. Let's remove the covers and take a look at the newly painted areas. I promise you, I'm gonna make this look way better later in this video.
I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys, this wasn't the best job I ever did. It looks horrible. But you know, I'm no mechanic, I'm no bodywork guy. This is basically the second time doing so, or doing it to this extent. Basically, I still have to learn a lot, and that's why I'm doing this. I just want to know how to make a car look perfectly again, because my cars, or our cars actually, because my girlfriend now owns the E36, and both cars have massive paint problems, and yeah, I just want to know how it works and just want to get better. Next up, we need to remove this door card here. All of this cloth here isn't attached to the door card anymore, and I just want to attach it again. Now we're gonna remove this thing here. Yeah, we do. Okay, we did break 2 clips. Yeah, 2 clips.
So let's remove all of the other door cards.
Detached.
And here they are now, ready for further treatment. But before we can do that, I want to focus on the rust for now. Let's cut out the last missing panel for the corner in the front. The upper part fits. Now we need to bend the metal. Yeah, looks pretty good, I think. We have already tack welded the panel on, and now we are modifying it a bit to fit snugly. And welding.
Next up, we need to finish the rear suspension because we need the car on the ground again. Then we can finish the section here in the front, and also the paint on the sides we can finish, and this little hole here.
So let's torque the 4 bolts holding in the subframe with 77 Nm. Then we need to install the dampers. Torquing the top mount with 24 Nm. And the bolt on the bottom gets 100 Nm. Let's do the exact same thing on the other side too. Next up, we need to connect the drive shafts again. Therefore, we need to torque all of the bolts with 52 Newton meters. Then we're reconnecting the prop shaft with the 4 nuts. Torquing the differential bolts, 95 Newton meters for the bolt in the front and 77 for the 2 bolts in the back. Next step, we need to reconnect the ABS and the speed sensor on the differential. We also need to reattach the brake lines. At first I've cleaned out every single bit of dust and dirt, and then we can reattach them. Now we are reattaching the wheel so that we can adjust the toe in or toe out. I'm just making sure that the bracket for the control arm is within the marks we've made earlier. Then torquing it with 77 Newton meters, and now copy and paste on the other side. And we are done.
Next up, we're gonna replace the transmission bushings. So we have them here.
So let's report the gearbox, and right after that we can loosen the 4 nuts holding in the gearbox mounts. Now we're gonna lift the gearbox a bit so that we can get out the gearbox mounts.
Wow, the difference is crazy. So it's pretty good that we're replacing them because they are squished down about 2 millimeters.
So let's put in the new ones. Then we need to torque them with 21 Newton meters, but unfortunately on the top I couldn't get a torque wrench on. So let's go with good and tight.
Okay. Perfect.
Then we're torquing all of the bolts from the heat shield and prepare the exhaust for the muffler. I'm just scraping off the rust here.
I'm also going to put on some exhaust paste, make it all nice and tight.
This paste is here to gap all of the imperfections and create a nice, good seal. Let's install the exhaust again. 24 Newton meters for the exhaust.
Good.
And now we are torquing the exhaust flange. And here we are going with 21 Newton meters.
Okay, this is done. Except there's something missing. Do you know what it is? You're right, the exhaust hanger. Here's a brand new one.
And now we are going to install it.
When? Perfect.
And here you can see the old exhaust hanger. It's just old and brittle. And you know what's also brittle? Exactly! The fuel lines. And these fuel lines can be a fire hazard. And I'm not even lying when I'm saying that it was actually pretty dangerous to even start the car. But take a look at it yourself. So I think we can both agree that it is smart to replace them. And now we're removing the whole fuel filter with the line.
We removed now the fuel filter together with the fuel hose, which also needs replacing because this is done. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, what can you expect from 30-year-old fuel lines?
Now we're gonna cut a new hose. Good.
Here we have the new fuel filter. On goes the fuel line connecting to the engine.
Put this in here.
There's still one fuel line we have to remove, the return line. After removing, we cut a new hose and install it on the car. Installing the new fuel filter and connecting the fuel line to the engine. Here we also have a new fuel line to connect it to the fuel filter. And with this repair, the car stopped being a fire hazard. And next up, we need to install the wheels again.
And now we need to drive the car out because the E36 has inspection tomorrow. Hopefully the car starts. I don't know.
Well, it doesn't. The problem is the battery is almost flat. So my dad helped me push out the car, for which I was very grateful. After charging the battery, we're trying to start it again.
But this time the car ran, and it ran great. Next up, we need to weld a small section from the interior here in the small corner there, because I unfortunately made a cut into there in the other panel. Wow. Okay. After this incident, I just wanted to charge the battery even more. Here my goal is to remove all of the interior trims and the carpet from the corner in the front. And we are also removing the seat for that. And of course BMW thought it would be great to put some electronics there. So we also need to remove that from there. Right after, we are grinding away all of the paint where we're gonna weld. And we are also blowing some cold air onto the welds so that we won't get too much heat into the panels. Next up, we are going to change the engine mounts. So here is the Hoist Rex, aka the engine crane, and we're going to lift the engine away from the engine mounts. But first, we are unbolting all of the nuts. Since we have very limited space, we need to remove the intake. Now we can reach the last nut holding in the engine mounts. Lift up the mighty engine, and here is a brand new engine mount. Okay. Ooh, brand new and shiny. And take a look at that. This is crazy. This one is definitely done. You can see it, how much it is squished down here. Glad we are replacing them. The difference here is even worse. Engine mounts installed. Let's torque them. And done. Bye bye Hoist Rex. And here is the old engine mount. It is completely done. Next up, welding again. So, I'm gonna be honest. I'm procrastinating again. This car should have been done a couple of days ago, but I don't know how many days have passed. I really don't know. But we still have so much to do. I really underestimated how much work this car is gonna need. So let's just continue with our work. Here we are removing the passenger seat. Next up, we have to lift up the car in the air, and we are going to grind off all of the under seal from the both sills on the underside. And after having removed all of the underseal, we are putting on some rust converting primer. Next up, we need to fix the hole in here. But at first, we need to remove all of the underseal, and then we can cut out all of the rusted metal. Next up, we have to finish welding the front corner. But before we can weld, we need to remove all of the slack. Now we can weld for days and nights. But honestly, I think I've welded about one day. Literally 5 minutes welding, then stopping and doing something else, and then welding again. About one day long. But it was worth it. In my opinion at least, it looks good. Now we're going to start to fix the fender. As you already know, while removing the fender from the car, I have snapped the bottom piece of the fender. So here we have a replacement panel for that. So let's cut it to size. Place it on top of the fender, mark it, and then trace the line. And now we're going to cut it. And I'm always so nervous about that, because you can't just undo a cut. So let's hope my measurements were right. But at first glance it looked good, but you'll never know until it's on the car. It's the next day again, and the first step on this day is to apply some rust converter on the fender, on the front metal where the kidney grills are in. Then we have to fix the rust hole, which we cut out yesterday. I will do that. I'm not just gonna say that. I have to do it now.
So let's prove it. And at first, we are removing as much rust as we possibly can without making holes in the metal. And we are doing that by sanding down all of the rusty spots. Then we are using a wire wheel to remove all of the deep sitting rust. And I'm not gonna lie, this took a couple of hours.
I do have something new to remove all of the sticker residue. So let's try it out, if it even works.
This is called a vinyl eraser. It's just like a normal eraser, just for bodywork. And next up, we are going to take everything outside and put on some rust converter, and then we're gonna treat it with some primer. But at first we have to clean, then we can put on the rust converter.
This now takes 1 hour to convert the rust, and in the meantime I'm going to fix the rust hole in the floor.
Therefore we need to create a patch panel. I'm using the old metal as a template. As soon as I traced it, we are cutting it out. Let's test fit it. And since it fits snugly, we're gonna put on some weldable zinc to protect it against future rust. While the zinc is drying, we are removing the rust converter from all of the panels. And after cleaning, we are also putting on some zinc on them. As soon as the zinc was dry, we are putting on 3 coats of sandable filler, but only on one fender and on the nose panel. Unfortunately, the other fender needs more attention because there are 2 little holes in it. Back to the hole in the underbody. Let's weld our newly fabricated metal. Grind down the welds and remove the welding residue, which is also called slag. Right after, we're putting on the rust converting primer, and this spot is done for now. So the next step is to remove the rust on the doors, grinding and sanding away all of the loose rust. Then rust converter. And while the chemical is reacting on this side, we are taking care of the other side. 1 hour has passed, so let's remove the chemical. Then on goes some sprayable filler. And after letting it dry, we are sanding it down. I want to create a smooth surface for the new paint. Last step, I'm putting on some primer, but on the driver's side we aren't quite finished yet, but we're gonna take care of it later. Do you remember when I told you that the outer fender needs further treatment? So let's put on some Bondo, and on the next day I'm sanding it down. And right after we're putting on some zinc, sprayable filler, now we are sanding it. Now it is time for some primer. Again, some sanding, but this time with 1000 grit sandpaper. After that, some cleaning, and now we're spraying on some paint. After 10,000 steps, finally, 3 layers of base coat and 2 layers of clear coat. And we are done. We still have to get rid of the edges, but it looks so good in my opinion.
I now have the perfect name for this car. Say hello to Joey, the 30-year-old grandpa with an adventurous past and a huge amount of battle scars. Hi Joey!
That was the first time I called this car Joey. And here is the next car we have to fix. It is missing an air filter.
We need this. Yes, you.
And after installing, we're gonna close the hood. And now it is ready to start. But I'm gonna be honest, it sucks. I just wanted to get rid of all the dirt so that we can put on some primer. We are almost done here. We just have to tighten the nuts holding in the plastic trims. And then we are done. Next up, we're gonna take care of the anti-roll bar. These bushings are done, so we're gonna remove them. Cleaning the two brackets, because there was a lot of loose rust in there. Installing the new bushings.
Okay.
And now we're gonna put it into the car again. Torquing the sway bar links. And now the stabilizer with 21 Newton meters. And we fixed another thing. Let's finish all of our welding spots. Here we are just grinding them down to make them nice and beautiful again. Now we're putting on some primer. And we are done with that also.
Take a look at this. This is snow. It's cold. It's snow and it is cold. For the next couple of hours, I'm not going to do anything else besides then grinding down all of the body filler from the sills on both sides and also the body filler here in the front. It is going to be a great time. I really start to believe that I'm able to make the rear arches look way nicer than they are looking right now. And I'm kind of thinking about redoing them because for me, my main goal is to make this car nice again. We are of course way over this 7-day period I wanted to give myself to finish this car. But I think this wasn't possible from the beginning.
Well, sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. But as I already said, I'm gonna make this car look way better than before. And this is my main goal. So here we are putting on some thinner body filler to remove all of the scratches.
I'm really excited about the next step because this is going to transform the interior of the car so much.
But for that, we need a battery. And then we have to open the sunroof. And now we have lights inside the interior. The interior right now is so dirty. So we have to clean it.
Can you please explain this? This is a drill bit which is a bit broken, I guess. So interesting what's in here. Moldy gum. At first we're gonna start by removing all of the coins. Ooh, this makes the car cheaper. €1. Let's remove this also here. All of the moldy stuff. Ah, this is so dirty in here. That's clean, right? Of course we need further cleaning, so we're going to spray down with some textile cleaner. Oh, this smells so nice. We have a little brush and we're just doing a little cleaning action. Looks again way better.
And now we have to extract all of the chemicals from the carpet. And take a look at the difference. It is night and day. The carpet looks like new.
This is the cleanest I ever got a car. And I'm kinda loving it. I love cleaning this car. So let's clean the other side.
So at first we have to remove all of the stuff from the carpet. Now we use the sucker. Some chemicals to clean the carpet. Now we use the drill and the brush, which helps getting all of the dirt on the surface. And now we are extracting all of the chemicals.
Gonna sit in here.
And we have to clean the dashboard. And of course I'm not forgetting about the other plastic trim interior pieces. There was one thing left to clean in the car, the rear seats. Take a look at this interior. It smells so good and looks way better than before.
Now the interior looks much better. So we are going to let it dry for a few days.
But Adam wants us to get in, so therefore we have to close all of the windows and also the sunroof. Back to the bodywork. Let's create a nice surface where we have put on some Bondo previously, but then disaster struck.
I think this tool just gave up and I can't afford to buy a new one right now.
So I've used compressed air and tried it again. And fortunately, now it works, although it is making some strange sounds.
Ta-da! Looks good!
What do you think about the paint here? I think it looks shitty. I have spent so much time on Joey to get this right, but it still is wavy and it doesn't look good. But you know, Joey deserves better. So therefore I'm going to scrape off all of the paint and try to make it as perfect as I can, because I know I can do it. I know I can do better. The sills on this car just look way better than this. And also the front fenders, which had holes in them, just look perfect. Okay, not perfect, but nearly perfect. So therefore, I think I'm gonna spend the next 4,569 hours to make them look good.
So let's start sanding. And if done by hand, it takes so long. So I thought I'd use the machine. But there's an issue.
So this thing here is broken. Now I can't afford to buy a new one right now. And I've actually just begun to grind down all of the paint on this side. We still have the other side. And now my question is, how on earth am I gonna be able to revive Joey again to fix this mess here, what I did? I really wish I knew that before I've scratched all of the paint. I guess we have to do it by hand. We have to fix Joey with my hand. Okay, that was pretty not what I wanted to say.
So let's sand the night away. Yeah, that's what I did. Days and nights full of sanding. And it actually started to look a lot like I imagined it, like I wanted it to be. They are looking so much better than before. Of course, we are not quite finished yet. We still have to sand down some spots, but I think we really can make this look so much better. But oh boy, we have created so much dust in the whole garage.
Okay, so we now have put covers on the car. Now we can spray the fender on both sides. Yeah, here you can see it. Basically, the car is fully covered up in order to not get any paint on there. Except the fenders, of course.
The car is dusty, so let's clean it first. And now we are ready to spray on some filler. Here we are sanding down all of the filler to make a nice and even surface. Of course, another layer of filler, sanding the other side, and yet again some filler.
Yesterday was really late. I was up till 2 o'clock and finished doing this here. And today is the day where we are able to put on some paint. Again, finally!
So here we go again, after hours upon hours of preparation. Hopefully this time we're gonna be able to make it beautiful. And I'm gonna be honest, I was so nervous about painting it again. I just hope we won't make the same mistakes like we did before. And I know what you're saying, it does not look perfect. It is still a little bit wavy, but for a beginner, I'm actually pretty proud of that. And later in this video, I'm gonna do something that makes it look so much better.
Next up, we have to fix this fender. The fender, as you already know, is a bit rusty, so therefore I have cut it away at the bottom, and we have a replacement panel for that. And now we are going to put on the fender and then try to figure out how the new panel should sit in on there. Yeah, let's just try it.
But at first I have to show you something that we did earlier this day. Here is the replacement panel. I have sanded it down, cleaned it, and put on a layer of zinc. And now we are ready to fit it on the car.
Okay, we need to remove the lip here a bit, but then it looks pretty good.
That looks so much better.
Let's tack weld it for now so that it stays in place.
Now we're gonna take off the fender.
And here we are fully welding the fender. And just to make sure that the panel doesn't warp because of the heat, we are using compressed air, and we are also just tack welding it along the whole seam. After grinding down the welds, we are putting on some zinc. And now it is time to fit it on the car. And since we have welded the corner here, we need some new holes. Here I'm marking and then drilling. Holes done. But in the process we have exposed some metal, so therefore I'm grinding down these spaces just a little bit more and then spraying on some zinc to protect them against future rust. And of course we weren't done yet. We just have to put on some underseal. And the sills also get some paint. This is a stone chip protection paint and it looks so good on the car.
Now we're painting the other side. And now this side also looks good.
The back seat. You should probably take the wheel. I'm kind of twisted inside, and I don't know.
Let's put on some Bondo on this fender. Oh, already done? Okay, so just sand it down then.
Might be the Prozac kicking in. And I just wonder what you got.
And while I'm doing that, my friend takes care of all of the glue leftovers on the car. And props to him, he did a really great job. Now we try to start the car and hopefully we have fixed the coolant leak. Otherwise I don't know what to do, because next week we have the inspection. So we really need to get finished with this project here. So here goes nothing. So let's cross all of our fingers and hope for the best. But of course, Joey still leaked. The car runs great, but it still loses coolant. It's now the next day and we need to get this car almost finished today. At least we need to fix the engine, which is leaking coolant. We need to do that. We need to finish all of the paint stuff on the two doors, the front two doors. And the fenders, they need paint. Definitely today. But at first we are putting on some rust converter on the other fender, which we haven't fixed before. And after an hour we are removing the rust converter and sand down the panel. Right after that some zinc and sprayable filler. And while this fender is drying, we are sanding down the other fender. And on this one we are also putting on some zinc and then some sprayable filler. And while both are drying, we are taking care of the doors. So after sanding, we are putting on some sprayable filler, then removing the leather, which is in our way of painting, sanding again, but this time with 1000 grit of sandpaper, and now the other side, removing the leather again, then sanding with 1000 grit of sandpaper, and finally some paint. After the first layer dried, we are putting on 2 more layers of base coat and 2 layers of clear coat. Next up, I'm going to do something I don't actually want to do, but I have to because we have these edges here. And I have never done this, so I hope that we won't damage the paint by doing that. I'm just taking a little bit of water and just smearing it on. And then we're starting to wet sand. That doesn't feel good. Here we are using 1500 grit of sandpaper. This is normal water, just warm water. And try to not apply too much pressure. I need to take care on the edges, because the edges are the most vulnerable spots where you can get through so easily. I really hope we can do it and we are not damaging anything by doing that. So the goal is basically to make the clear coat even, just like a mirror surface. And whilst we're doing that, we can also remove all of the edges. Okay, this looks already pretty good. We're going to move on with 2500 grit of sandpaper, or we use 3000, I don't know. But as you already might guess, the plan didn't go well. So I tried something off camera. And I think we need to repaint the car on this side. And I don't want to do that anymore. I now know what I have done wrong with the car, with the paint. And we need to order some other things again. And I wish I wouldn't have made this today, because that was just dumb. But I'm going to show you what I did to the car. Doesn't look good at all. I sprayed on another layer of clear coat and smudged it. So I'm gonna be honest, Joey looks horrible. Again. I've now ordered some new paint and we have to repaint both sides in the rear. I don't want to do that, but we have to deal with it. And now I am in a bad mood. And to distract myself from that,
I had to do something else, like fitting his nose.
Good.
And nice and shiny things always brighten my mood. So let's clean Joey's nose.
This is next. Okay, next up I'm gonna refill the coolant fluid. I'm just going to pour in some water till it comes out here.
My goal is to bleed the coolant.
Well,
I thought maybe that's the issue.
water is definitely missing.
So let's start the car and wait till it has operating temperature.
So, and now we're gonna let the car sit for a bit till it is heated up. Then we're gonna close the cap and just see if it is still leaking or not.
As said before, I suspected that it has some air in the cooling system and therefore building up too much pressure, which results in a leak.
Now we're gonna leave it like that and we're gonna see whether it's dripping or not. Oh! Great! As soon as I put this on, it started to drip.
So let's take a look again at the pipes in the back, but space is limited. So therefore I'm removing all of the wires from there.
Now we're gonna have to remove this one, I think.
For that I actually had to remove the ECU. There was so much that had to be removed. And all of that just for a little bit more space. But we did it in the end.
We won't need to do anything else, this should be fine. And I do think I know what the issue is.
The big pipe connected to the flange in the back is losing coolant. I already torqued another clamp there, but it was for the small pipe.
I'm just trying to make the clamp a little bit tighter. Nope.
This was the sound of coolant dropping on the hot exhaust.
I think the clamp was loose. Hopefully. Let's cross our fingers. I'm gonna start the car and I really hope that's the issue. I know that the pre-owner did replace the flange in the back and also in the front here, these coolant pipe flanges, but maybe he did not tighten the clamp in the rear enough on both pipes. I hope so. Let's try to start the car and we're gonna see whether it's still leaky or not.
I hope now the car is tight. I hope it's so much.
Yep, bone dry now.
We fixed the issue for free. That's so cool. Everything that's left to do now is to install everything in its position. And after that is done, we can put on the bumper. And Joey is starting to look like a car again. But at the moment, he's a dirty one. So let's clean his bumper. Nice, clean and shiny again. And now it is time to clean the front seats also. And unfortunately, this seat was basically the bed of a cat. In my garage, cats can go in and out. Yeah, that's a problem I have to fix.
Things got kinda awkward. The sparks in the air. He would stare at her in class. She would try to act cool, but it was obvious like.
And now take a look at the difference. The passenger seat looks so good.
They would be together. And one day she said, write me a love song, 'cause I know you'll make it beautiful. And maybe I'll call you my sweetheart, and promise nobody can steal me away.
Let's install the passenger seat. Therefore we just have to screw in 2 bolts and 2 nuts. Now it is the next day, and as I already said, a cat used the seat as a bed, yet again. So I had to vacuum clean it again, and now we can proceed with the other cleaning techniques. And done. So let's install the seat again.
Perfect.
And we're done. Next up, we're installing the door trim again in the back, and this is just a matter of clipping it in. And we're done. Next up, we're gonna take care of the rear bumper, sliding it on, and torquing the 4 bolts from the boot.
Now we're gonna change the oil.
And at first we're removing the oil filter.
Okay. And next up we're gonna drain the oil. New crush washer on the bolt.
Torquing the oil pan bolt.
Good.
Cleaning. Now we need to replace the gasket from the oil filter housing cap. Installing a new seal, and this bolt holding the cap got a new crush washer and also a seal.
New oil filter. I'm also going to put in some oil. Let's put on this here. This bolt in here gets 25 Newton meters. Okay, 25 Newton meters. I'm gonna be honest, that was nerve-wracking.
Yep, the bolt looked very fragile, but it isn't.
5W40. Some from Liqui Moly. Just the good stuff. Drink up, little buddy. 4 liters. Next up, we're gonna take a look at the wiring of the door. Just because, this is wet. Oh, wait.
In order to explain what the issue really is, we have to go back in time, before the challenge even started.
Close the car.
The doors only lock when we are trying it the second time. But then when we're trying to unlock the car again, it doesn't work.
Nope. I know what I'm going to do. I just want to take a look whether the wires are broken or not, and therefore I'm gonna remove the connector here. This is a connector. So now we can test whether there are any broken wires in here or not. Oh!
While searching for the door lock wires, I have found something.
I think I know why the lock on this side doesn't work.
The issue was not electrical, it was mechanical. The hook for the lock simply unhooked, and therefore it wouldn't open any doors when turning the key. So I simply put the hook back into its place and squished it with pliers.
I think I've got it. Take a look at this here.
But does it also lock and unlock the other doors?
Okay. Let's close the door. And now we're gonna close the car. This is working now. But we still have a problem with the trunk. I know that before. It doesn't close. But everything works here. Now we're gonna open the car. Yes. Good.
The issue is, when locking the car on the driver's door, it simply won't lock the trunk.
It locks the car?
But when locking the trunk, it closes the whole car. So let's take a look at the wiring loom.
I think it already got repaired underneath here. I can see something, but we're gonna see that in a minute. I just need to remove this, whatever this is.
We have to get rid of the poorly made insulation.
Yep, I already can see what's wrong with it. I'm now just wondering what does even work in the back when we are turning on the lights. Well, now we know nothing does work, except of this here. That's the only thing that works now, right now. We're gonna snip it here.
We have to replace a lot of wires, because they are either disconnected or repaired poorly.
One wire fully done. We are done, but look at this mess. It's so bad, but we're gonna tidy it up later. For now, I want to try something. At first, therefore, we have to reconnect the battery. I need to turn on the lights. Good. And does it work? Yeah, it works now. But we still have to figure something out. I'm gonna close this real quick. Good. And it works. We're gonna open the car. Great. And we should also be able... Yeah. This is good. I'm gonna tidy up this real quick. You're gonna take a look whether the lights work now or not, okay?
Just wanted to test it again.
Does it work? Next up, I want to finish the rear compartment. Yeah, so there's some trims missing here, 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 and in here. And while doing that, I'm watching some Legend streetcars. Thanks, Alex, for these videos. It's just funny. And I have something to look at while repairing my E36. Yay!
And here on the next day, I'm also putting on some stone chip protection on the fenders. And since we have messed with the differential, I wanted to make sure that there is enough oil in it.
Yep. We're gonna fill a little bit of differential oil in there.
The right oil level is when it starts to drip out.
Unfortunately, I don't have any new crush washers. Okay, this is enough. We're gonna clean it once more. Should be good to go.
Let's install the fender again, but this time for good. Now the other fender. And we also have to bolt in the fenders on the bottom. Back in goes the arch liner. And the headlights.
Come on, go. In with you. Yeah.
Fenders and one headlight installed. Next up, we need to drain the coolant, because we need to replace it. It's really old. And while this is draining, we need to fix the broken exhaust hanger. So at first we are welding it, then we remove all of the slag, welding again, but this time from the back side, and then painting it with some high temperature paint.
That joke incoming. That's not going anywhere. Unfortunately, the other rims have summer tires on them, so we need to put on the winter tires.
At least for the inspection. Now it is time to put some coolant back in. And getting the car to operating temperature, so that all of the air can bleed out. Now we're putting on the trim on the driver's door. And here I'm testing the windshield washers, but they didn't work great, so I'll need a solution for that. And we're dealing with that later. For now, I just want to clean the engine. And it looks almost brand new again. Next up, we're gonna take care of the paint in the back.
We're now gonna remove the paint here.
Yep, you heard that right. We need to paint again, so therefore let's sand off the paint first. Here we are spraying some base coat on. 3 layers again. And on the next day we are putting on 2 layers of clear coat. And while I'm doing my thing, my friend fortunately came again and removed all of the leftover glue. In the meantime, I'm fixing the windshield washers. The line just got patched up poorly, so let's make it worse first. Cutting, and now we're putting a connector in between. Heating up the line so that the connector slips in more easily, and then connect them both. And this should be good enough for the inspection, hopefully. Do you remember the not so good looking door cards? Well, we're now gonna fix them. At first we need to disassemble them. Here we are removing the inlet holding the cloth. And now we are removing the cloth. At first I just wanted to glue it back on, but it is simply too much worn down. So therefore we have to put on some new fabric. So let's put on some glue on the inlet and then put on the fabric. And after trimming, we can put on the door cards again. And for the first time doing this, it actually looked okay. Take a look at the spot what my friend cleaned before. It's remarkable. He did such a great job. Here we're spraying on a stone chip protection and then install them on the car.
Tomorrow we have the inspection on Joey. I'm a little bit confident that we are going to pass it the first time, except of the brakes. We bled them yesterday properly. Not a single bubble of air is coming out of the bleed nipples, but it just feels weird. But I'm gonna be honest, I have never driven a car with a drum brake in the rear before. I think the brake force is okay, the car brakes. It just feels a little bit spongy.
So here I just wanted to clean the underside of the car in the front again, just to make sure to get rid of any coolant leak leftovers.
I have to show you something. I don't think it is funny, but it kinda is. This bolt here in the front is loose. I mean, how can something like this happen? I mean, this is an oil pan. This should be tightened.
I mean, think about that. The car lost coolant just because of
Tight.
2 clamps that weren't tightened. And it also has 1 oil pan bolt which wasn't tightened. This is scary. Hopefully we won't get in trouble because of other loose bolts while driving to the inspection. The car is now going to the inspection.
I need to pass the inspection today.
I've done everything I could, Joey. The grumpy E36 survived 4 brutal Pothole Rodeos and spent almost 2 years sitting and collecting rust. We have worked so hard to bring him back. But is it enough for Austria's unforgiving inspection? Let's find it out.
Joey has passed the inspection. Yes! In the first time I have passed an inspection in the first try. Today we're going to fix the paint, and maybe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow we're gonna polish the car. And then Joey is ready for a new owner.
So let's remove the door trim.
Good.
Now we can sand all of the edges down. Removing the blinker. And even more sanding. I think in total this took about 5 hours. Now we are cleaning all of these spots. Well, I'm nervous. On goes some base coat. But this time there's really no room for errors. Any drips or runs in the paint, you're gonna be able to see them. On goes some clear coat.
Take a look at this paint here. You can't even see that it got painted here. On this side you can actually see it here, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. You can also see a bit here, but everything looks better than before.
Installing the door trim again. And now we have to remove the leftover glue residue. And thanks to my friend, it was not much.
Next up, I just want to wax the car. And since I can't go outside right now and wash the car with the high pressure washer, we need to do it like that.
Well, I meant I want to polish it, not wax it.
Now I'm using a paint dough,
Or better known as a clay bar.
and remove the last couple of flakes in the paint, or from the paint.
And Joey's paint already looked way better than before. And now take a look at Joey. He's so shiny and looks so good.
This is it. Joey is done. We just have to shower him once more, but I think that's everything I can do. And to be honest, I have learned so much with Joey. I mean, I have done some things I have never done before, and from here on, the projects just get better and better, until someday I can make a perfect showroom car, which is my goal.
So let's clean the outside of Joey again. And we're starting with the rims. Joey is finished and he looks amazing. Thinking back to how he started a rough, unsafe fire hazard to now a fun and safe car. This journey taught me so much and I'm so grateful for the experience. It took longer than I planned, but we made it. Now the big question, how much did Joey cost and what did it take to bring him back to life? If you want to see another classic BMW transformation, check out the video on your screen right now. I wish you a great start into the new year and I'm gonna see you back in 2025 with a great project.